Good morning and welcome back to Spurs Latest. I am your host, Trip Graham. So happy to have you here today. We're going to get into everything Spurs, game recap last night, what's going on over the weekend, some of my favorite NBA topics. We'll look at NBA issues today, biggest plagues in the NBA right now. Is it foul baiting? Is it tanking? Is it salary cap? We're going to talk all about that. And then we're going to look at the game preview for tomorrow night, a Saturday night Spurs game this weekend. Sorry if I sound a little off today. Definitely feeling a little under the weather this weekend. Woke up yesterday morning just not feeling good. So we're going to get it started. So if my energy seems low, that is why. But hey, I'm here. I'm here. We're getting started. We're getting started. Spurs latest. Let's go. All right. So first, let's talk about it. So, Spurs won last night 121-94 against the Suns. Stephon Castle had 20 points, with Wemby having 17. The Suns were very short-handed last night. They had Dylan Brooks suspended for that first game back from the All-Star break due to too many technical fouls. So he was out. Jalen Green, who I actually thought was going to have a breakout season this year, has just been really injury plagued this entire season. He only played in his 8th game last night for the Suns. So really, just a very injury plagued season for the Suns. Obviously, they got rid of Kevin Durant, getting Jalen Green this last year, and really was hoping Jalen Green could step up into that superstar role along with Devin Booker. Hasn't been able to happen yet. And then Devin Booker only played 9 minutes before leaving the game with some hip injury. So we will see how that goes. I think it was just hip soreness. I think he's fine. I think they were really just being cautious on the side of cautious last night with that. All right. Some of the other things. So that was the Spurs' 7th straight victory, 6 games before the All-Star break. Another one after this. Tomorrow night we have the Kings, so I'm gonna almost pen that in as an automatic win, unless something really barring happens. So this has been a really good time for the Spurs. We're really creeping up in the standings, and I'm sorry, I'm just really a little sick today. We're really creeping up in the standings, and Thunder should be getting worried with SGA really injured still. He's going to be out for another week, it looks like. So in this week, we can really climb up some of the standings. We got the Kings tomorrow night, and that should be an easy win, but we're going to go talk about that a little more after this. So some other things from this game. I mean, one of the things that I'm saying with Wemby, he is not getting the fouls called like the superstars that do. He was just getting pummeled in the paint last night, and that might be the tactic to go at Wemby. The more I watch his games, the more I think like if you can't stop him, just foul him and send him to the line. Don't let him get the momentum carrying over, because it will hold him. Obviously, we still won last night, and we have so many stars now with Castle, Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper is really finding his shot as a rookie, and crazy, really, really finding his shot as a rookie. He shot like 70% last night, and he's only gonna get better with his shot. Really, really interesting player. I'm just so excited to see his development happen in the league, along with Castle and Wemby. Some of the other things that were coming from this game is, it's just Wemby is just not getting those fouls called, and I really would like him to start being one of the superstars that the refs respect as one of the people that get those fouls called. But that's not happened yet in his career. Only third season in the league, so we will see. Other things, and it was just a really injury-plagued game last night for the Suns. Other ones that were really contributing was Luke Kornet. Luke Kornet had 10 points and 9 rebounds. Just is really solidifying himself as our backup center that is just can do anything for us. Very, very exciting player to have on our team, and really complements Wemby perfectly. And I just am very happy with turnout for this game last night. Fox had 15 points and 8 assists. He only played 22 minutes. And then, Wemby also had 5 blocks. He only played 25 minutes. That's a block every 5 minutes. Just absolutely destroyed them. I think it was like a 13-0 run after the second half started. So just ridiculous game from us. Awesome game. All right. Well, like I said yesterday, I did want to talk about some of just Chris Paul. Chris Paul has been one of my favorite players in NBA history. Definitely with my generation, he was the point god growing up. Um, Starting off he I think was the first jersey I had outside of a hometown jersey, um, which was that New Orleans New Orleans, wow, not Pelicans, New Orleans Hornets jersey. I had a Chris Paul New Orleans Hornets jersey. Just really my generation's point guard. God. When he went to the Clippers, those years with DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin were some of the funnest that we've seen in the NBA. I mean, the Lob City Lakers. Excuse me, I'm off today. The Lob City Clippers were just one of the most fun teams that never got over the hump. They just kept making the Western Conference Finals every year. They never made the finals. It was just a team that just could not get over the hump, but was the most exciting, fun team in the NBA with their style of play. So I just really loved Chris Paul when I was growing up. Some of the biggest memories, obviously, he got traded to the Lakers, and David Stern wouldn't let it go through. That was one of the most biggest memorable trades that happened, and now we see trades that should be rescinded, like the Cooper Flag. Excuse me, like the Luka Doncic trade that ended up getting them Cooper Flag the next year in the draft, and Anthony Davis is now on the Wizards. Those are the trades that I see like, hey, should those have been rescinded? Because, how did they reject that Chris Paul? They said that the Lakers were going to be too much of a super team with Chris Paul and Kobe Bryant. Unbelievable that ever happened. But, as the career of Chris Paul went on, he did make the NBA Finals with the Suns. He never got over the hump in winning the NBA Finals, but he was able to get to the NBA Finals with the Suns. Awesome team that he had there with DeAndre Ayton and and Devin Booker. Just an awesome team they had, and he was that point guard still. As this season has gone on, the Clippers just absolutely did him dirty. He could have just sat on the bench, rided out the season, and they could have not made a name for themselves. It was a public relations nightmare for the Clippers dismissing Chris Paul this season. I don't care if he had a bad relationship with the coach. Chris Paul is a grown man, and they should have just had him on the team, even if him and the coach butt heads. Tyler Lue, doesn't matter. Don't let that story get out. Just let him have his fairy tale ending to his career. Don't make it a thing. And what did they do? They had to go make it a thing. And Chris Paul was dismissed from the team, traded to the Raptors, where he then announced his retirement and showed up for the Raptors this past trade deadline. And he retired. Such a sad ending to a career that I really looked up to as being the pinnacle of a point guard growing up. He is what every point guard wants to be in their career. And having such a sad ending to his career just did not sit right with me. And obviously, the Clippers couldn't do right by him. So I say to myself, like, okay, is there another team that could honor him? And I do think so. I think it's the Spurs. Chris Paul just last week just said on a streaming site that, his favorite organization that he ever played for, he's played for a lot of organizations at this point now, was the Spurs. And I think that the Spurs should, we had a very short stint with Chris Paul, but obviously the organization impacted him very positively. And I would really like to see the Spurs honoring him as a catalyst of the organization, of the NBA, not just of the Spurs, but I want the Spurs to build Chris Paul to be like a catalyst of the NBA and honor him. If we could have Chris Paul night at the Spurs, I think that would be a really big thing. Love that if that could happen. All right. Well, that's Chris Paul, one of my all-time favorite players. Definitely won't be the last time I ever talk about Chris Paul here on the podcast. So much to relate to him in the NBA and today's standards, and what a point guard should look like. All right, so if everybody's seeing this, is that the NBA is now trying to figure out how to prevent tanking. Now, tanking, obviously one of the biggest issues in the NBA, but is it the biggest? What do you guys think? What do you think is the biggest issue in the NBA? Obviously the top three that came to mind that I wrote down were tanking, foul baiting slash flopping. and then salary cap. All three we can relate back to the Spurs. So for tanking, one of the things that they asked for teams that it got leaked about plans that are for next year of how they're going to combat tanking, possibly a possible plan for how they're going to combat tanking is that if you get top 4 picks 1 year in a row, you will not be able to get them the next 2 years. So what that would meant for the Spurs is that we could have gotten Wemby, but that means we cannot get Stephon Castle or Dylan Harper, even though there were other teams that were ahead of them. So what they're trying to do is you cannot compete for those top 4 spots in tanking. But the thing is, I don't think that the Spurs have been really tanking for the last 2 years. It was more of a buildup of a roster that is built to succeed in the long run. So I just don't think that was the case with the Spurs. And I would hate to penalize teams for drafting well. In 2 of the 3 were not number 1 picks. Stephon Castle or Dylan Harper were not first overall picks. So how are you going to limit them from, drafting the players that they want? I would hate that. I know what they're trying to get at, and this is definitely like to prevent the Kings from doing what they're doing. Zach LaVine and Sabonis both said this year, I'm sitting out for the rest of the season. I'm going to go get my hand surgeries. I'm going to go compete for a team next year. Hopefully they'll trade me. That's what the Kings team is saying right now. I don't think that they have a future with Zach LaVine and Sabonis on the team, but that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to tank for those number 1 overall picks. And this upcoming offseason is one of the best NBA draft classes we've seen in a long time. Obviously, we've had some really good NBA drafts the last few seasons. But this upcoming draft, people are saying like the top 5 are all going to be all-stars in their career. Well, we'll see. Peterson, Abasanya, Boozer, just some really, really good draft coming up. So we'll see how that plays out. But I don't want them on the Kings. That's the thing. So what other issues do you think are in the NBA? I think that it's absolutely the tanking is the worst part of the NBA right now. Other people would argue about salary cap would be the worst part of the NBA. And you can look at a team like the Boston Celtics. So last year, 2 years ago, the Boston Celtics won the championship with Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Al Horford. Last season, they decided, since they didn't win, Jason Tatum got injured, we are going to unload those players, and we're not pretty much going to compete for the next season. Now we can all see what the Celtics are doing this season. They are clearly competing. But it was because of the salary cap that they had to get rid of those players like Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday to stay under the salary cap, to not get the fines, the rules that hurt teams for having those high salary caps. Now, I don't think that's on the Celtics. That's just on good GMing. And that's what I hate, is like, how do you retract players? How do you keep players, but you also have home ground talent like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum? How do you keep players in that environment when obviously the salary cap is to not have too many star players on one team? I would not put Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday in that echelons. They are 2 medium players, I would say, that higher echelon medium players that can contribute to a winning team. Now the Celtics had to dump these 2 contracts along with Al Horford's because Tatum wasn't playing this year, and they were trying to get under the salary cap, and that's what they did. And now they're back to competing because that's what good organizations do. Well, it's just my thoughts about how we compete in the NBA. Let's talk about the Spurs versus Kings Saturday night. Just like I was saying, that the Kings are absolutely punting on the season. They are going for as many losses as they possibly can on this season. Sabonis, injury. LaVine, injury. Both going to get surgeries. Then you have DeMar DeRozan. One of the funniest DeMar DeRozan stats I saw the other day was, did you know that DeMar DeRozan has more career points than Steph Curry? Just an insane stat right there. And it just proves that points totals do not translate over to winning. DeMar DeRozan has had he has not been playing on the best teams over the course of his career. Obviously, played most of his career on those Raptors teams, who were just being dominated by the Miami Heat and the Celtics in the East. So yeah, I do expect this is going to be a pretty easy win for the Spurs Saturday night, and we're going to definitely recap it on Monday. The Spurs are rolling with 7 straight victories. I don't think anything's going to stop here. I'd like to give more of the bench players more role tomorrow night. I'd like to get Fox, Wemby, and more of a night off. I'd like to Castle and Harper to drive the offense. And those are the things that you could do with such a good roster, is that you can put Wemby and Fox out for a night and say Harper and Castle run the offense, get us 30 each. So what do you guys think? How do you think this game's going to go tomorrow night? Spurs versus Kings Saturday night. We'll be there to recap it on Monday. Thank you so much for joining me today on Spurs Latest, and I'll see you on Monday.